Stocks surging on a blowout jobs report. The U.S. economy adding 313,000 jobs in February, smashing expectations of 200,000. That's the most added in nearly 2 years. Let's bring in today's panel. We got Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, Carol Roth, a former investment banker and founder of the Future File Legacy Planning System, and Jack Hough from Barron. Steve, let me go to you first. We not only had the jobs report, we had that astonishing news about North Korea last night. And it all started yesterday, right as the closing bell was ringing on Wall Street, with the news that President Trump was pulling back very strategically, very importantly, on certain aspects of the tariff. Of those three issues, which moved the market the most, you think?
Oh, I think, David, the moving back on a global trade war was huge. Immediately giving an exemption to Mexico and Canada, making it clear that he's going to negotiate with others to make sure these things don't hit, giving that 15-day window where some of this can be done. I think the world was reassured we're not going to have this tit for tat and go into a global trade war, which would have hurt everyone. So what looked like a disaster a week ago, something we can live with. And then what this jobs report underscores is how strong the economy is and will be if we leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, Carol, a week ago, what we were listening to were Trump's advisors, Peter Navarro and Wilbur Ross, talking about there being no exceptions to this tariff. They kept saying no exceptions. Yesterday, the word was flexibility, and that flexibility included quite a number of exceptions, right?
It did, and I think that this is one of the things that President Trump is really good at. Obviously, he wrote Art of the Deal, and it's one of the things we had been debating, and I think the market was debating whether he was really going to come down hard or whether he was going to use this as a point of leverage. Obviously, a great opportunity for Mexico and for Canada to try and renegotiate NAFTA. Now we're hearing that maybe South Korea might get some flexibility, and my guess he's going to go back to some of our other big trading partners like Japan and Brazil, and perhaps use that as leverage as well. So I think that that's been a big boon for the market.
And Jack, one of the key elements that the administration used to support the idea of tariffs was jobs. It's kind of hard to support the idea of tariffs when the job market is just going through the roof. I mean, you can't find enough qualified workers for positions these days.
Yeah, and we in the primary metals industry, we employ hundreds of thousands, but in the manufacturing sector that uses those metals, it's millions. And I was concerned about those jobs, so I'm definitely glad to see the flexibility. I would love to believe that this was some sort of strategy from the start. I'm thinking more in terms of Trump floated the idea out there, saw that the backlash was pretty severe and is dialing it down. Either way, the further we get from a global trade war, the better.
By the way, Steve, Melissa has been saying this from the beginning, from the get-go. She said this is the way he operates. Melissa, you got to take a little credit. Look at the camera there.
But this is the way he negotiates.
Steve, what do you think?
Maybe, Melissa, you're going to replace Gary Cohn. I mean, if you have that kind of a predictive
Steve,
power.
weren't you admit it? You were concerned that these trade tariffs were going to interfere with the tremendous progress we've had, right?
Absolutely. If he'd left it unchanged and they followed through on no exceptions, you would see a very different close today. But the very fact, even though he says he never backs off, he finds a way to get around these things, be flexible, and to make sure this thing is going to work. That's pretty good politically.